What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Split Your Wig Garage. I was taking the exhaust off that New Edge car. Busted myself right in the head with it. Split it open the other day. Been here Monday morning. About to start on the Calypso coupe. Going to take the fenders, hood, front bumper off. But before I start on it, I'm going to show you a couple things that I'm going to need to do before I start pulling parts off of it. Okay, one thing that he had let me know when he brought it over here, the hood, when it would latch, you would have to pull it over to one side to get it to latch. So one thing that I did right off the bat is I took the latch off, and I took the latch off of the hood and the radiator support. And then I let the hood come down just on its own freely. And what I noticed is there is a large gap on this side. And then it's really tight on this side over here. It's actually touching overlapping the front bumper here. So what that tells me is that I need to try to adjust the hood. The gap back here is pretty close to the same on both sides, but it's really not going to move much at all. It's actually a little tighter on this side, but it's not going to move much at all. If I slide this corner back just a little bit, it should take that front over to where it needs to be. But I want to align this hood. Even though I'm going to take it off and be working on it, I want to make sure that I can get it aligned when I go to put it back on. And if anything needs to be done, I know ahead of time instead of after it's painted. I'm trying to align it up with a freshly painted hood. And the front bumper, like I said in the earlier video, my last video, is that I'm going to be painting the whole front bumper, getting rid of these tag license plate holes, and there's a small tear in the bumper right there. And I'm going to paint the whole thing because there's a run over here, and prop this hood up here. I'm going to be painting the insides of the fenders. So in order to paint underneath the fenders, when I do the engine bay, the fenders are going to be off, but I'm going to try and roll this edge here and just paint the insides lips of the fenders. That way they match when the engine bay is painted, and I don't have to do anything to the outside of the fenders because they are in really good shape. And then the K-member, stuff like that, I'm going to get out of it so it's a little bit easier to work around in there. He's got the panels, which I don't know if I've went over this already. If I have, I'm going to delete this. But he's got the aprons, Scott Rod Fab panels that are going in the engine bay. So I'll be cutting these out and putting them in. And then instead of putting the other panels in like I did that reef coupe, I'm just going to be welding these holes up. I'm going to make patch panels for the larger ones, but the smaller ones, they'll just get welded up. And on the inside, I'll smooth them up and paint the inside black, and smooth the holes up on the top of the engine bay. And he's wanting this lip cut down so he has a little bit more room and looks a little bit cleaner. So I'm going to cut that lip down too, and the holes in the top of the radiator support are going to be filled up and patched up so it looks a little bit smoother and cleaner. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Get started on it. Also, I'm going to block the rocker panel on the 65. That should get that took care of. That's ready for primer. These quarters to roof are ready for primer. Got the deck lid sanded. This is nice and straight, good for first coat of primer. And I gotta block that down there and see if it's good for primer. And then what I'll do is I'll sand the quarters and the doors, the rockers, and the roof. I'm not going to mess with the front end yet. Get all this in primer. That way nothing bare metal is trying to rust, because it's going to get pushed to the side again. And once I start a little bit on this one here, I'm going to jump over to the booth and work on the Nova to try and get it painted. And then I'll get back on the coupe car, try and get it knocked out. If I can get the Nova painted, the next all over paint job is going to be the 65. And then I should have this painted before the 65. So get this in and out as quick as I can by still doing a good job. And yeah, that's where we're at. And got the heat kicking on this morning because it's kind of chilly this week. But yeah, let's do it. Okay, so I did a little bit of adjusting on the hinges and tweaked the hood, the front of the hood towards the driver's side. It helped a little bit, but not good enough. So what I ended up doing is loosening the fender bolt, top fender bolts on each fender, and the braces that go at an angle, well, they actually go this way at an angle behind the bumper down in the fender well. I took them off, and what I did is the front end I pushed over to the passenger side, and that made the gaps on the fender a whole lot better. They're basically uniform now. You can see that follows the front bumper fender, looks good. And you get over to this side, and it's got a good gap until right here at the corner. So what that tells me is that either this fender cap here for the front bumper is tweaked in a little bit, or the hood is just a little bit too wide at the very corner. The way it looks to me is that the bumper end follows the fender really straight and really good. It does need to come up just a little bit, but that's not going to affect it as much as this right here is. It's going to try and put this in a bind. It's actually out a little bit right here. I can catches me on the finger, and then it's in there and in there. So what I'm going to do is, since this is nice and straight out through here, what seems to me is the hood is just a little too wide. The hood is setting back a little bit also. Where the holes are, I can't move it forward anymore, and it actually needs to come a little bit forward. So what I'll end up doing is I'll take the holes and make them to where the hood can come out a little bit further. And when I do that, all this should need is the hood be trimmed up just a little bit to make this gap right, and that should take care of it. So I'm going to move that hood a little bit forward. It could use it anyway. This gap is kind of tight, but moving it forward it's not going to hurt anything, I don't think. Not more than what it actually needs, because it just needs a little bit. See there, just a little. Pretty tight back here. These cowl hoods are bad about sagging right here where it starts going up, and it don't follow the line. Some would get real bad, like the red Fox body that I did. His corners are angled up really bad. So expect that on these cowl hoods. But I'm gonna try and move the hood a little forward by dremeling out them holes, slotting them out so they'll let it come forward, and then I'll see where this gap is, but I'm still probably going to have to take some off the hood. So I'll take some off the hood and show you what it looks like after. All right, you can see that I shaved just a little bit. I mean, it didn't take much, some 80 grit sandpaper, and just shaved just that corner of that hood flush with the fender gap and the bumper, and it looks a lot better. So that gap would be good. And then once put the striker and the latch back on, if it needs to move just a little bit, that'll sit it right where it needs to be. Everything looks real good. When it latches, it's going to come down a little bit more and should be even with the bumper. So I'm going to take the hood off because like I said before, it's got damage here, so got to fix it. It's actually got some bubbles out through here also. So after all that aligning and everything, I'm going to take it off. Fenders, front bumper all off, but it's best to do it now before everything's all freshly painted. That way now it can just bolt right on. Okay, so I got the Calypso coupe all stripped down and going to start cutting and welding and doing all that I need to do to get the engine bay looking good now. I figured I'd video just a second on showing you got it all stripped down, and I covered up the rest of the car because this car's in really nice shape. Don't want to get metal shavings and stuff all over it. Got the bumper took down too. A lot of people probably leave the inner structure, the headlight structure support in the bumpers. I don't like doing that. I like taking them off and drilling the rivets out and putting it back with new rivets. I think it looks better than painting, having overspray in even though you don't really see it, but to me it's a pet peeve deal. Notice that it was ripped right here where one of the rivets hold on. There's that crack I mentioned earlier, and I noticed somebody put a plate down here and riveted a tear together in the bottom. So probably end up fixing all of that, just so there's no issues, because I'll have some glue and stuff mixed up to fill these holes in. So yeah, that's where we're at on it, and I'm gonna keep going. So this 99 2000 Mustang just came in today. There's a spot on the front bumper where there's pit bike rubbed against it that I'm going to be repainting. And Brad is working on getting his seat adjusted just right. It was a little too close to the door bar, and going to readjust the brackets and everything, get it moved over towards the center better so it'll fit a lot better for him. And here's the damage in the front bumper. Going to fix that and repaint the front bumper for him. Pretty nice looking little car. He just recently bought it, so it hasn't been down the track or anything yet. But yeah, just come in, we're gonna get it knocked out. All right, I got the little GT car covered up so it don't get all covered with a bunch of dust and everything. My car's over there saying, what the hell? But I got the bumper primered yesterday. I'm going to sand it, get it ready for paint. Paint should show up today, and try and get it painted this evening. I don't know if I'm going to start sanding a little bit more on this or get on smoothing that engine bay first. I'll probably do the engine bay, but I'll set up the camera if I do. But that's what I'm doing this morning. And Toyota hood showed up, or the hood showed up for the Toyota that wrecked outside. So I pretty much got all the parts to start on it. So as soon as I can get it in here, I'll start on it also. All right, I just got done sanding the bumper for this GT car. I've got it jacked up there because he messaged me and asked me to take the exhaust off, and going to be ordering some turn downs right off of the headers. He wants them. And I don't know if I mentioned it before or not, but Brad yesterday evening got the seat all modified, so it's sitting better for him to be more comfortable. Got more room next to the door bar and everything. I don't even know if I even talked about that. But I got the bumper over here. Paint should be coming today. It's ready to paint. I was going to show you. Check out these ducts that somebody put in the fog light holes. Thought that was pretty neat. But yeah, repaired it. Turned out good. Found a few runs. Got them sanded out also. So it's ready to paint. I'm gonna paint it in here with the Nova like it is, because I got sand the primer down on the Nova and re-primer again anyway. So a little bit of overspray is not gonna hurt anything. That way I don't have to untape it and stuff. I wanted to already have this done, but been working on other things that's came in. So getting that maybe next week. And now I'm gonna start on the engine bay. Okay, I've got all the holes that need to be welded up, prepped. I got the aprons cut out. I haven't done any fitting of the new aprons going in, so I'm still going to do some work to it, but I'm going to go ahead and start welding up all these holes. I'm going to wait to do the larger ones because I'm going to create some patch panels for them. But the small holes, I'm going to go ahead and start welding them up, get them knocked out this evening, and then start on fitting the aprons and making patch panels for the larger ones. Okay, back in the garage this morning. I didn't video any last night, but I started welding up all the holes after I got them all prepped. You seen in the time lapse, I got the aprons removed. I haven't done any fitting on them. I think the last time I recorded something, I told you I was going to prep the holes, or I already prepped them. But the more time you take on prepping your holes to be welded up, the easier and better they are going to weld. Because a lot of these holes are kind of like countersunk. They're not flat, smooth. So if you, what I do is I'll grind the edge just enough to knock the paint off. And see, this one was countersunk a little bit. It's nice if you leave it countersunk, but I don't know if you can tell or not, but inside of the actual hole, I take a, forget what kind of bit that they're called, but I take one of these and I go inside the hole, or I'll take a file and I'll get the paint off of the inside of the hole. That way, once you strike it with the MIG welder, it don't try and spit and splatter, and it gets good contact, and the hole welds up really nice. I contacted the owner. I'm not sure if he told me to weld up these big holes on the. I think for sure he wanted me to weld these up, but I wasn't for sure if he wanted me to weld the ones on the radiator support or these large ones back here. So I had to ask him about that before I started to weld up something I shouldn't. But the only other thing is that he wanted to keep the prop rod on the upper radiator support, and the only issue is that it had one of these square nuts welded right here, and must have stripped out at one point, and they had it drilled out, and a nut and bolt through is how it was. So I took and I grinded the square nut off the top, and then I welded in a nut on the back side. That way it just takes a bolt now, so don't have to have a wrench and a socket on both ends. Now you can just tighten it up like it was factory. And then welded up all the holes over here. This spot here is for the prop rod holder, and these are for the hood, the hood adjusters to adjust the hood the way it sits up or down. But that's where I'm at on it. I welded basically all of this side, the small holes, even on the frame rail there, and got the radiator support. I'm going to start welding up. I even actually last night started welding the bottom of the frame rail over here, but I'm going to start welding up these holes and across the top of the firewall. I'm pretty sure he wanted me to leave this hole for the windshield washer hose to go through, but other than that, all the others are getting welded up. These, he's going to put the rubber back, so they're not going to get welded up, and I'm going to cut this pinch weld back some too, to give him some more clearance on it. But when he lets me know about the large holes, he actually just texted me just now, said weld them up. So I'm gonna prep these other large holes back here and weld them up also. Weld these up. So yeah, let's get to it. Okay, I have got all the little plug panels for all the holes made. Got the larger ones for these holes here. Got the holes prepped. So next thing I'm going to do is get them welded in, and then start grinding. I'll grind all these welds down, get them smoothed out, and then I'm going to go start fitting the aprons in and get them fitted and welded in. And on the inside here, I'm going to smooth them out some too, because I don't want it to look all bad in here. So I'll smooth them up, get it looking good on the inside and the outside, even though nobody's going to really see the inside ever, but I can see it. That's where I'm at. I got all the panels made. I guess I can show you how I made them. I just took a piece of cardboard box, stuck it on the inside, which I don't know if that's crazy. I picked this one for this hole because they're all different. But put it on the inside, traced it out, then put this on a piece of scrap metal, traced it out, cut it out, and there's my patch panels. I'm actually going to save these now so I don't have to make these anymore. That way I have a template to go off of to weld these in on future cars.